Okay, the first thing you want to do is open a browser, and you want to surf to https://change IP paradise.changeip.org, and Chrome will ask you to hit advanced and proceed, and IE I think will just present to you the option to proceed anyway. Enter your username and password. And this should be set to connect already. Hit go or hit enter. And then you can click here to download the install package that will install OpenVPN. The download will take a little bit of time compared to most of your normal downloads, since you're pulling the file from the Paradise building, which has a 1.5 megabit internet connection, so a little slow. Once this is downloaded and we're running it, we can actually close our browser. It's no longer needed. I believe if you're running IE, it'll ask you if you want to run or save it, and you can just select run. And we'll open it, allow it to run. And again, I'm just going to close this browser, no longer needed. Okay, created a desktop icon, which I rarely use that. And it created a tray icon. I always use that. Okay, it's done installing. If you hover over the tray icon, it'll tell you its current status. And we want to, it shows it is disconnected right now. We want to right click and choose connect. Note that this also shows go to Paradise. And that is to go to a website, and there is no website there, so it'll just give you an error. So we want to connect to Paradise. That sets up the VPN. And first time here, enter your username and password again. Hit enter. And answer yes to this. We want to allow it. And notice down here, we are now connected, and the little green check mark shows us that. Okay, so now we're connected to the VPN, and we want to launch our remote desktop connection. Under Windows 7, that's all programs, accessories, and I believe in Windows 10, that's Windows accessories at the bottom of the start menu. Remote desktop connection. And a little trick here is this icon in the taskbar shows it running. Of course, when you close it, that'll disappear, but you can right click on it and say you want to pin it to the taskbar, so it will stick there. And we're going to punch in the IP address of the remote server at Paradise 192.168.65.23. Connect. Username is the domain name first, which is Paradise, then a backslash, not the front slash, username, then password. And you can tell it to remember credentials. Make it easier the next time. Don't ask. And we are connected. And you can run either the liquor or the food side. I'll quit out. Food side. I'll quit out, and when you're done, try to close out of the Profiteer, whichever one you've been using. And instead of hitting the X here to close your session, which actually leaves your session available for next time, it's preferable that you hit the Start button, select your name, and sign out. And that will close that remote session. And then when you're done, just right-click on your VPN connection and disconnect. That's it. Okay, now I'm going to cover some advanced topics, some of which you may know and others probably not. Okay, let me first cover a few things you can do with the VPN. So let me connect the VPN again. And the first thing we'll talk about is drive mapping. So here's my drive list on my local computer here, C drive and another hard drive for storing lots of information. And I would like to have another drive that would reach out to the Paradise remote server's shared folder so I could have access to all the documents. Again, this is not with RDP, this is just using the VPN. And unfortunately, you cannot just right-click and go to the network and create a drive map. So it's a little bit techy, if you will. We have to actually type in a command to make this happen in accessories and command prompt. Okay, what I have to do is issue this command called net use, and I tell it the drive letter I want to use, S:\space, and then some slashes and the IP address of the file server, not the remote server, but the file server, and then the folder name, which is called shared. And optionally, I can put in a switch here and say that I always want it to be persistent. So every time I restart my computer, I want it to try to reconnect and set up that S drive for me. If I don't, the next time I reboot my computer, it's lost. And you'd have to retype this command again. And it will ask me for my username, and I have to put in the domain name and my username and the password. And we're done. And notice what happened here. It created an S drive. Let me close out that window. Now I have an S drive. And if I click on that, it'll go across the VPN and it'll show me the shared folder, all the documents in the shared folder. And I can just drill down into folders. And depending on the bandwidth, this may or may not be instantaneous. Sometimes it'll spin for a while if the internet's busy at the store. And depending on how many files are in the subfolders, like if you have 1,000 picture files, of course, it could take quite a while, several minutes to actually populate on your local computer here. And one of the reasons for doing this is that on the remote server, we don't have Microsoft Office licensed and installed on there. So you can't remote in and open Excel and then go find these shared documents. So what you can do is have Excel on your local computer here, and then you can just do a file and open command and head out to your S drive and drill down to your documents that you want to open. And that way it's local. If you open documents, work on them, save them, you can print them locally. Very convenient. Okay, so I think you get that, and if you ever want to disconnect the drive, you can do that graphically. You can right-click on the drive and tell it to disconnect. And I just killed that window because it was looking at the S drive. So, okay, next let's talk about printing. So if you wanted someone at the store to have a document printed, you would typically maybe have it on your local computer, and you would print it to a PDF and then email it to them and ask them to print it out and do whatever with that. Wouldn't it be great if you could just directly print to the printers across the VPN? And you can. So what we can do is we can go to Control Panel and Printers. And so here's my printer in my office here, my local printer, and very simple. And I'm going to add another printer that is actually going to go across the VPN. So add a printer, and it's going to be a network printer. And it's going to populate the list of printers it could find, which will only be my local printers. Local and network printers inside the building I'm in now. So it won't show me the one across the VPN. So I have to say it's not listed. And now I'm going to select, I want to add a printer using the IP address. And I'm going to punch in the IP address, 192.168.65.99. And you just have to be told what that is. There's no way to figure that out, except by walking up to the printer and hitting out a information sheet. And just have it query the printer automatically. If it's Windows 10, this will work great. If not, if it's Windows 7, we'll have to actually hand it the driver. I've actually pre-downloaded the driver from the Ryco website. That's a Ryco 4000 series printer, I believe. So it's reaching out across the VPN to talk to that printer, and it's determined it's that 4054 model. And it's trying to copy all its characteristics. And okay, so Windows 7 has troubles doing this, so I'll show you how to remedy that for Windows 7. Not sure if that box has to be closed now or not. Okay, here we go. Okay, it's trying to let me, okay, Windows Update will not have that driver, so I'm going to say have disk. I'm going to browse out to the location I downloaded it at, which is my C drive. It's actually in the downloads folder of my username. Downloads, there it is, Ryco MP4054 Universal Print Driver for Windows 7 through Windows 2012. And that should take, I get two options here. I'm not sure which one. I'll go with this. They're probably both the same, just different verbal references. Okay, so I'm not going to share the printer. And not going to print a test page. Okay, so there it is. Actually, I need to try to delete that one. There it is. So now, anytime I do something locally, whether it's email in a browser or have a doc or a spreadsheet open, and I print, I can just choose this printer. Now, right now it's set up as a default. I really want my local printer to be the default. Set as default. And this one will be the optional printer I will send documents to. So very convenient to just print something out knowing it'll come out up there instead of, and you could just email somebody, hey, I printed something out on that printer. Can you make sure you take care of it? Okay, that's VPN. That's things you can do with the VPN. Now let me just for clarity, I'm going to delete this for the next steps we're about to take, just so I could go up here and delete it. Okay. Okay, next let's talk about RDP and all the things you could do with RDP. So if I start my RDP app and I want to connect to the Paradise remote server, I can actually create an icon for it and save it as Paradise. I'll save it to the desktop. And there it is. It creates an icon. And let's say I also I have another office I move to sometimes in our building that has a computer at it. And let's say I don't want to walk down the long hallway to get there. And I just want to go directly to it. Okay, I'm going to save that as back office on the desktop. And I could go on and on. I could create dozens of these icons for representing each computer or other client that I need to get into. And I could have multiple sessions open at once. So I could go here. I'm in the Paradise computer. And realize this is windowed also. So if you can minimize it and it's still active. And you can also scroll around if it is smaller than the actual size. And let me just veer off topic for a second here. And notice how when you have a smaller window, suppose you're viewing a document here, like a report, and you want to compare that to like another spreadsheet you're working on. You want them side by side. But you can probably get away with scrolling around and getting to where you need to be. But sometimes you just need access to the whole screen, not have to bother scrolling. So what you can do, actually I'm going to log out just to make sure. See, it's really a pain to scroll around here to get to where I want. I know where I want to go, but I have to scroll all the time. And what I can do is I can right-click on my RDP icon and edit it. And then I can change at this top tab here, display, and I can specify the size of the window I want to be working with. So I might want to do a 1024 by 768 screen, kind of a square screen, and connect. And now it'll recreate my desktop with that size. And that size. And that is the size of my desktop. Now I have access to all my icons and the start button and the clock at the bottom right. And very convenient. Now, if I want to then use the full size of my local monitor to have the same desktop, notice I can't maximize it. That I told it that was the resolution of my desktop I wanted in the remote session, so it's stuck there. If I wanted to change it, I'd have to get out and go back and edit that back to full size. Now actually I did not, if you wanted to stick, like if you make it smaller, you'd have to go back to general and resave that so it sticks into that icon there. Also, if you have multiple monitors on your local computer, you can say use all my monitors, and it'll, if you have 2 or 3 monitors, it'll expand out that desktop to all 2 or 3 monitors, or 4 or 6 if you have such a setup. Okay. And next, let's talk about, okay, so the multiple sessions. So I can have multiple sessions going on. I can minimize them to just get them temporarily out of the way. I can have another computer start up. Okay, here's that other computer. And I can have, dozens or, practically a handful of remote sessions going on at once that I need to be doing research or various work on. So very handy. Let me just close that out. Okay, next, let's talk about drive injection and copy and pasting across the VPN. So what you can do, let me close this out. Okay, let me edit this icon. And the tab is local resources. And what you can do is you can inject various things into your remote session. So for example, I'm going to do drives. And I can specify exactly what I want. And I'll just do my local C drive here. And now, when I connect, it re-asks me for this because now I'm injecting a drive into that, so that's like a little security issue that it wants you to confirm. Okay, now everything still looks normal, but when I open up Explorer, notice here right at the top, I have depends on if it's Windows 10 or 7, this is Windows 10 effectively, the C drive on my local computer. So it takes a second to wrap your head around it. So you're remoting into a computer at Paradise, and the C drive on your local computer has been injected into that remote server. So now, if I'm in the remote server, it's as if I'm in the Paradise building, and yet I can click on this, and I can see my local computer. It's like it's reaching back out to my office and showing me what's in there. And the benefit of that is that you could go to a document, for example. Let's go to the liquor store. And we will copy this, right click and copy, then go to our C drive, again my local C drive, and I might have a temporary folder, or I could drill down to my username and my documents folder. See, notice how slow this is? This is because it is backfilling across the VPN, so you know it can be sluggish if you have a lot of folders and documents. But you just have to be patient. It will get it done. It might seem like it's stalling at times, but it is working on it, and when it gets the data, it will populate it. Don't cancel it and try to restart it because you think something's wrong. And I'll just right click and paste, and it'll bring that file across the VPN. Now, this is a really small file. As you get to the larger files, like even just a few megabytes, you will see it take its time to get it across the VPN. And don't try to do large files like 100 megabyte files will take a long time. And I'll just delete this off of my local drive. Actually, let me then show you what's going on. So here's my remote session. I just did all that. And now I'm going to open Explorer on my local computer and go to my Documents folder. And there it is. There's that Excel file I just copied across. And notice on my local computer, I have really no way to get to that remote server unless I had kept that mapped drive S that we had set up in a previous exercise. So it's kind of a one-way view, but if I'm in the remote session, from the C drive, I have access to the entire C drive. I can do other things. I can look at the entire C drive and manipulate it. I can delete files off of it, so you got to be a little bit careful. Okay, that is drive injection. I hope you find that useful. So printers and map drives can be very helpful for dealing with VPN and for remote sessions. I'm back here editing the remote session again. You can, just like you can inject your local hard drives up to the remote server, you can also inject printers. So there's that printers option. And let me I got rid of the drives. Okay, so just the printers, and when I connect, oops, I need to go to Control Panel. Devices and printers, and you should see right here, there's my local printer. Let me go back and show you again. If I go to on my local computer, I go to Control Panel, Devices and Printers. There is my local printer, Samsung, color laser. Okay. And now in the remote session, it's injected that printer up there, and it shows you in parentheses it's been redirected. So if you print to this printer, it will actually come out on my local printer in my office here, nothing to do with the Paradise building. So it'll redirect it back down through, the printout will actually come back through the VPN down to my local computer and print in the printer queue on the local color laser printer. So that's another thing that's very handy. And so if you have several printers set up on your computer, it can get kind of messy on this screen. You might see like 5, 6, 7, 8 extra printers, because you might have like these things here, like a a PDF writer, the Microsoft XPS, and well, you can see it here. It's right here. 1, 2, 3 extra printers that just start clogging up things. When you get up, you might have 8 or 9 or 10, and it just gets real messy. But just have to read it and choose the one you want, and it'll function like it's a it'll function like it's a normal printer. Okay, next I'm going to show you just a little visual trick with the window control. The title bar at the top shows you your current connection status, the health of it, and sometimes you can have many windows that you're working or they're maximized and you just can't get to. Like right now I want to close this Explorer window and it's underneath the bar. So what many people don't know is that you can just slide this around. You can just slide it left and right to get it out of your way. And you can even unpin it. So clicking that unpin button and you wait a minute and it'll just like disappear. So it feels like it's really like your local computer visually. To get that back, you just bump your mouse up near the top and it'll reappear. And you can always tell it to pin back. Okay, thanks for watching.